Hello geographers, and welcome to this video, which is a pre-recorded coverage of a lesson looking at the UK economy. So this one is looking at the post-industrial economy. So in your scheme of work so far, you have hopefully now looked at what the UK economy has been like through time, the reasons why it has changed. And today we are going to be looking at what is going on now and looking at the kind of movement into the future and the way that our jobs and economy are going to work. So by the end of this lesson, hopefully you'll have a really nice, clear understanding and definition of what we mean by a post-industrial economy. We'll also think about how technology has played a really important part as we have changed the way that we work in our country and changed the type of jobs that we have. And then after that, we're going to be looking at these two new workplaces that are popping up all around our country. So we're going to be looking at what a science park is and also what a business park is, with some named examples of those. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that we're all happy with what we mean by a post-industrial economy. So post obviously meaning after, and industrial economy is the thing that we have been discussing in previous lessons, this idea that our jobs and the money coming into our country has mostly relied on things like factory work, manufacturing, and the coal industry. So we're looking at after that. So as a definition, so this is something you need to be getting into your booklet. This is a post-industrial economy is where manufacturing, so secondary industries, decline to be replaced by the service and technology sectors. So obviously we have looked at that change over time already in terms of graphs and those pie charts in the first lesson, but this is obviously something we need to kind of delve a little bit deeper into now. And one of the reasons why we really need to understand this is that actually 80% of our gross domestic product in our country comes from the service sector now. So that is the tertiary, office jobs, working for the NHS, working in education, all of those things that aren't necessarily making a product, but inputting into our country in some other way. So what I'd like you to do before you move on from this slide is just make sure that you have this definition written into your booklet. And then once you have done that, you can play the video again and we will crack on with the next bit. Okay, so the next part of our lesson is just to think about technology and how technology has been so important as we've moved away from those secondary industries. So we've got 4 features of technology here that I'd like you to have a little bit of a think about in your next booklet activity. So we've got mobile phones, computers, the internet, and automation, which is the use of machinery in jobs such as manufacturing cars, as you can see here. So you only need to take 3 of these, and what I'd like you to do is think about how each of these things has made working in the tertiary and quaternary sectors easier, and how it's allowed those types of jobs to grow and thrive in our country. So give it a go. Don't forget that this is an explain activity, so you should be using connective phrases such as "this means that" or "as a result of this." You need to pause the video now, and then when you've given it a go by yourself, then we will go through 3 of these for identifiable parts of technology together. Okay, so the ones I'm going to choose are going to be mobile phones, internet, and automation. You'll probably find that what I'm just about to say also can often be linked into computers, particularly when we talk about the internet, because they do come hand in hand. Let's have a think about mobile phones though, and how they are helping us thrive in those tertiary and quaternary sectors. So the thing about a mobile phone is that you can be constantly in contact, and even contactable if you are in the most rural parts of the UK. Obviously, there are some places where that is an exception because the signal dips, but generally you can work from pretty much anywhere in the UK now. So what that means is that if you want to work in a job that is tertiary or quaternary based, but the office or research centre is perhaps somewhere else in the United Kingdom, you could still potentially work within that sector from home. And obviously that is very much the case at the moment, that we're learning that working from home is definitely a possibility for quite a lot of sectors. So use of mobile phones means that you can be contactable quickly over large distances in the UK, which means a greater workforce and a more effective tertiary and quaternary sector within our industry. The second thing is the internet. Now, as well as the internet doing exactly what we've just said in terms of being really good for communication, it's of course incredibly important for information. So knowing what's going on in the world in things like the stock market. So if you are working in banking, in that tertiary kind of sector, or if you are, trying to look at where you should be investing your money as a business, then the internet is really important in enabling you to know what's worth what at any given moment in time. It also means that you can engage internationally with other parts of the world, whether that's again within that financial sector or even just in the process of trading goods and ideas. So having that internet is incredibly important for that. And the third example I've chosen to go through is that automation of manufacturing jobs. So if, for example, in that photograph, you have got machines working on cars rather than people, then that is going to reduce the amount of people that we need in the secondary industry that might still exist in our country. And it's worth noting that those industries do still exist. The thing with those industries now, though, is that they don't need as many people working within them anymore. And that's great for the tertiary and quaternary sectors because it creates a greater workforce for them. There are more people available in our country to work in those services and technology sectors. Okay, so we've got some other economic-based key terms for us to have a little bit of a look at now. So in your booklet, you will find that you have got those key terms on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side, you have got those definitions. But in the usual format, they are all muddled up to get you guys hopefully thinking about these instead of just reading directly off the page. So what I'd like you to do now is just have a look at those definitions and see if you can link as many as you possibly can to the correct key term on the left-hand side. So at this point, again, you need to pause the video, give it a go, and then after you have done so and done your best, press play again, and we'll go through those examples in the correct order. Okay, so let's have a little look at these then. So growth corridor, I've put some icons on here to hopefully help you recall and remember what each of these key terms are. And of course, here I have put a road. So as a definition, these are a focus for economic growth, often following a major transport route. For example, the M4 that runs between Bristol and London. So growth corridors are often in our country roads that enable businesses to get what they need really quickly, whether that is people coming in and out or perhaps sometimes goods. So a growth corridor is just a road where lots of industries want to be because it's got a very good link with other parts of the country or perhaps even further than that. Now, a footloose business is a business that isn't tied to any particular location. So if we think about businesses that are working in the development of software, they do not need to be anywhere apart from perhaps somewhere with a good workforce of quite qualified people and also access to electricity. So they don't need to be in the middle of London. They don't need to be actually even in any city at all. They can be slightly further out. And obviously, if we think about those opportunities mentioned in the end of that definition, that could be things like a cheap land cost. So you've got kind of low costs for setting your business up. It could be that you are right next to a university so that you have got access to people with lots of qualifications and expertise. So it's a business that doesn't need to be anywhere in particular, and they can go wherever they want to get those things such as a good workforce. Now, the key term agglomeration means a group of something. So in the context of what we're looking at, it's where similar companies group together in the same location, and it'll often be to share expertise with each other. So we're going to look at two examples of agglomerations here today. And the first one is our next key term, which is a science park. So these are groups of scientific and technical businesses located in a single site, often linked with universities. So we've got a few of these around us, obviously not directly within Dorchester, but if we kind of drive to the west, we have got the University of Exeter, and they have got the Exeter Science Park right next to them, and they have companies such as the Met Office and EDF Energy, parts within that part of Exeter. And then if you go the other way, there is also the University of Southampton Science Park. So these are big groups of businesses that, again, they're kind of joined together so that they can share ideas, but they are deliberately plonked right next to universities because there'll often be a lot of people coming out of those institutions looking for work, and it does mean that they can be right there to take those people in as they start looking for work. Linked to that, or very similarly to that, we have business parks. So these are more common. We'll find that we have many more of these within Dorset. It's the same sort of thing. So it's still an agglomeration of companies, but this time focused on business. So they'll tend to be on the edge of towns. There'll be lots of offices where, it could be a banking company or something. They're all kind of right next to each other so that they can do that same thing of sharing expertise and perhaps providing a little bit of healthy competition between those businesses. So these are the two, as I said, that we're going to be doing a little bit of research on today, and you'll have an opportunity to watch a couple of videos and then go and do a little bit of your own research to look for examples of, for example, businesses or companies or any sort of kind of setup of examples within these regions. So if we have a think about, first of all, the Southampton Science Park, you will notice that in the description box below, the first video will take you to an introduction video showing the Southampton Science Park. And then what you'll notice on your worksheet is that you have got 3 columns. So these 3 columns are going to be getting you to look out for the following things. The first thing is examples of businesses and organisations that are located there. Try not to just give the name of the business. Try and actually give a 1-sentence summary of what they do. So are they an energy company? Are they researching into vaccines? Are they perhaps looking into the weather? Make sure that you're writing down, what it is that company actually does. Even if you think it is obvious, it's best just get it down there. The second thing I want you to have a look for is what the park has to offer beyond those businesses. So does it have things like hotels, gyms? Does it have lots of green space? Does it have any accommodation? Have a little bit of a look at the other things in the park and just make a note of those. And then the final thing is to think about the advantages of putting a business or organisation in these locations. So is it perhaps close to one of those growth corridors? So one of those big major roads? Does it look like it is somewhere where the land might be quite cheap or there's lots of land available? Is it perhaps right next to a university where you're going to get lots of people starting to look for work in that area? So you're going to do that first of all for the Southampton Science Park, and then you're going to have a little bit of a look over at a business park, which is the Cobalt Business Park. Again, you've got a video for that. And then after you've watched both of those videos, you're probably going to need to do a little bit more research. So just Google those places. You'll find their own websites alongside others if you would wish to delve a little bit deeper as well. And you're just going to make sure that you have got at least 3 things, I would say, in each of those columns for your research tables. And then once you've done that, your teacher will look forward to kind of going through some of those examples with you to check that you've got a good overview of those business parks after you have done your own research.